The night is always brutally honest with those who are quietly in love. When the world finally settles into a heavy silence and the endless stream of distractions fades away, the reality that people bury during the daylight hours slowly rises to the surface. And somewhere tonight, while you are doing your best to keep moving forward, trying to stay occupied, and attempting to convince yourself that these specific feelings are nothing more than a trick of your own imagination, there is someone younger than you who is thinking about you again. It is not a casual or fleeting thought. It is the persistent kind of memory that keeps returning, no matter how hard they try to push it out of their mind. They replay the sound of your voice in their head far more often than they would ever admit to anyone else. They hold on to the smallest, most insignificant details about you, the little things that absolutely nobody else seems to notice. If you are looking for the absolute truth about why a younger soul is fixated on you every single night, take a moment to really consider this. They think about the way your energy shifts when you are exhausted, the way your silence carries more weight than anything you could ever say, and the strange, quiet composure you maintain even when you feel like you are breaking apart on the inside. What confuses them most is that they never planned on feeling this deeply connected to someone like you. They certainly did not expect this level of intensity from someone who sees through people as naturally as you do. This connection did not begin with surface-level attraction, and that is precisely why it continues to haunt them in the dark. There is something inherently dangerous about being fully understood by someone who possesses genuine emotional maturity. Younger souls often do not realize how starved they truly are for a sense of emotional safety until they finally encounter someone who carries depth without any effort at all. Most of the people they have met before were loud, performative, emotionally inconsistent, addicted to the validation of others, or completely terrified of real intimacy. But then they crossed paths with you, and for the first time in many years, something inside them finally felt still. It is not that they think you are perfect, but they find your presence to be deeply and undeniably real. In a world that feels increasingly fake, that kind of authenticity is rare. The strange part is that they probably never intended to fall into this emotional obsession at all. In fact, there was a part of them that fought against it with everything they had. They may have pulled away at various points, acting distant, confusing, cold, or unavailable on purpose. However, emotional distance is not always a sign of emotional absence from the heart. Sometimes that distance is simply an indication that the feelings became too overwhelming to manage, especially for someone younger who is still learning to navigate their own complicated emotional landscape. It is vital to understand a core truth about human psychology. People are not haunted by the connections that are simple and easy. They are haunted by the connections that awaken something unfinished and dormant deep within them. You ignite something inside this person that they were entirely unprepared for. Perhaps it was your calm demeanor that pulled them in, or maybe it was the hidden pain behind your eyes that you never felt the need to explain to anyone. Maybe it was that unique combination of strength and sadness that you carry without ever complaining about it. Or perhaps it was the simple fact that when they were around you, they felt emotionally naked without even trying. That realization terrified them in many ways. Younger people often confuse high-intensity emotions with temporary, fleeting excitement. But what they feel for you is fundamentally different from anything else. This is not the loud, performative kind of attraction that burns out after a few weeks or months. This is the quiet kind. It is the dangerous, slow-moving kind that seeps into their subconscious until your presence starts appearing in the most ordinary moments of their life, completely uninvited. They think about you while they listen to music late at night when the world is finally calm. They think about you in crowded rooms when suddenly everyone else feels emotionally hollow. They think about you even when they are speaking with someone else who might be considered objectively attractive, yet they still find themselves comparing that hollow connection to the depth they experienced with you. Sometimes they even hate themselves for it, because no matter how hard they try to move on, your energy keeps pulling them back in. Carl Jung understood something profound about the way we bond. People are consistently drawn toward individuals who activate the hidden, unconscious parts of their mind over time. Age often has very little to do with the strength of this emotional gravity. A younger person might find themselves consumed by someone older because that person represents the grounding, wisdom, depth, safety, mystery, or healing that their soul has been searching for their entire life. But this is where things get complicated for them. They likely do not know how to express these complicated feelings with any clarity. Their emotions might manifest indirectly and inconsistently through lingering stares, through flashes of jealousy they pretend not to feel, through sudden disappearances followed by unexplained returns, or through keeping silent tabs on your life from a distance. They remember things you said in passing, and they grapple with an emotional tension that feels impossible to explain to anyone else, simply because what they feel exists on a level deeper than language. Every night, when their defenses finally drop, the truth comes back to them without fail. There is another reason this attachment became so intense for them over time. You likely never chased them the way other people did. You did not force yourself into their space or push too hard. You did not beg them for validation, and your self-control created a sense of fascination for someone who is used to chaotic, superficial interactions. Your restraint made them endlessly curious about you. Your silence made them wonder. Your emotional depth made them feel both secure and exposed at the same time, and that sense of exposure is addictive to someone who has spent their whole life hiding. The thing that hurts them most is realizing that you impacted them this deeply without even trying. That is what keeps them awake. Accidental emotional impact is infinitely more powerful than any intentional attempt at seduction. You reached parts of them that nobody else was able to touch. Now, even when they try to bury those thoughts under work, other relationships, or endless distractions, something inside them keeps returning to you. It happens in an instant. A song plays, and they are reminded of your energy. A casual phrase reminds them of something you once said. A moment of loneliness hits, and your face is there in their mind. In those quiet hours of the night, when honesty is the only option left, they finally admit to themselves that no one else has ever made them feel the way you did. That realization is a turning point. It changes how they see the world, especially for a younger person still learning the difference between simple attraction and true emotional recognition. Attraction can excite the body, but emotional recognition touches the soul in a way that stays forever. Once someone has felt that with you, every other connection they make starts to feel incomplete. This is why they think of you before they fall asleep. They are not just infatuated. A vital part of their internal world has become tethered to your presence. The most painful part is that they may never find the courage to say it out loud. Younger people are often more afraid of emotional vulnerability than they are of being alone. They fear rejection, they fear embarrassment, and they fear losing the control they work so hard to maintain. They are terrified of admitting that someone has gained this much influence over their heart. So, instead of being honest, they retreat into a long, agonizing silence. But silence does not erase attachment, it only deepens it. The human mind becomes obsessed with the things it cannot resolve, and that tension grows strongest at night when there is nothing left to suppress it. That is why they play your conversations over and over again in the dark. That is why they fantasize about a moment where they could finally be honest with you. That is why they constantly wonder if you are feeling the exact same thing across the distance. If you are listening to this right now and feeling a strange weight in your chest, you need to know there is a reason for it. A part of you has already sensed this. Intuition is often just your subconscious recognizing a truth before your logic is ready to admit it. You feel this pull because you know that connection exists. Sometimes you think of them at the very moment they are thinking of you. Sometimes their energy seems to linger in the room long after they are gone. People are far more connected beneath the surface than they care to admit, especially when those feelings are left unsaid for too long. There is one more hidden truth about this dynamic that most people never fully discuss. You need to understand that the intensity of their thoughts is a direct reflection of how much you changed their perspective. When they met you, they were used to a world where emotional transactions were cheap and fast. They were used to people who wanted things from them, or people who were only interested in the surface. Then you appeared, and you didn't want anything. You didn't demand their attention, you didn't play the games they were used to, and you didn't try to manipulate the situation. That lack of pressure was the very thing that broke down their walls. It made them wonder why you were so different, and in the process of wondering, they started to see themselves more clearly. You became a mirror for them. They look at you, and they see the person they wish they could be. Someone who is grounded, someone who is comfortable in their own skin, and someone who doesn't need external validation to feel whole. That is why they are so attached. It is not just about you as a person, it is about the feeling of peace they get when they are around you. They are holding on to the memory of that peace because it is the only thing that makes their current reality feel bearable. They know that what you have is not something they can simply find anywhere else. They know that they have stumbled upon something rare, and the fear of losing that access to your energy is what haunts them in the quiet hours. They replay every interaction to see if they missed a sign, if they pushed too hard, or if they pulled away when they should have stayed. They are constantly trying to decode you, trying to understand what it is about your energy that keeps them anchored even when they try to drift away. Younger people are often drawn toward older souls because those older souls carry emotional scars that quietly radiate a unique sense of wisdom and strength. Pain has a way of changing people in profound ways over the passing years. Loneliness, too, leaves its mark, shifting a person's perspective from the inside out. Emotional survival changes a person forever in many cases. When someone younger encounters a person who has suffered deeply but has still managed to remain emotionally kind, it impacts them in a powerful way. For them, kindness that follows years of pain feels sacred and incredibly rare. If you feel like someone younger is quietly fixated on you, take a moment to really think about it. Perhaps they sense how much you hide from the rest of the world. Perhaps they notice the loneliness you never openly discuss with anyone else. Maybe they recognize that behind your outward strength exists an exhaustion that you carry around in silence. Strangely, instead of pushing them away, that hidden side of you pulls them closer in ways they did not expect. It is not a superficial attraction, it is a deep sense of soul recognition that feels incredibly real to them. That is the primary reason they cannot stop thinking about you at night when everything else is still. Your existence effectively interrupted their normal, predictable patterns of life. You became emotionally significant in a world where most encounters feel temporary, shallow, and forgettable. Once someone becomes that meaningful in a person's subconscious, forgetting them becomes nearly impossible. Still, this connection might leave you feeling confused because they often appear emotionally distant right after they have been emotionally close. Sometimes their actions seem to contradict their feelings entirely, leaving you with no clear explanation. Sometimes their silence feels painfully loud and heavy to you. This contradiction can lead you to question yourself during difficult moments. You might find yourself wondering if you imagined the connection entirely, but the truth is that you did not. People who are emotionally immature often retreat the moment their feelings become too real. This is especially true for younger individuals who have not yet learned how to navigate intense emotions without trying to run away from them. They fear being vulnerable because vulnerability requires them to give up their emotional control. And for them, that control feels like the only thing keeping them safe. But love was never meant to feel completely safe all the time. Real emotional attachment destabilizes the ego in many ways. It forces a person to confront their old abandonment wounds, their insecurities, their fear of being rejected, and their fear of not being good enough. It brings all those hidden emotional needs they have spent years suppressing right up to the surface. That is why deep connections often trigger confusion rather than clarity in the beginning stages. Every night, this younger person keeps fighting that inner battle silently within themselves. A part of them wants to forget you completely so they can find peace. Another part of them cannot let go of you at all. A part of them desperately wants the emotional freedom they felt before they met you. Yet, a part of them secretly hopes that you are still thinking about them too in those quiet, lonely moments. Maybe the reason this story feels so painfully personal to you right now is that you have experienced emotional invisibility for a long time in your life. Perhaps people have admired you physically, but they never truly understood your emotional depth or the struggles you face. Maybe you learned to hide your feelings because life taught you that showing vulnerability could be dangerous in certain situations. Maybe you became emotionally independent not because you wanted to be that way, but because constant disappointment forced you to build those walls. That particular brand of emotional loneliness changes a person quietly over the years. It teaches you how to survive without needing constant emotional reassurance from others. It teaches you how to remain calm and composed while you are internally aching with pain. It teaches you how to carry entire emotional storms behind a steady face every single day. Strangely, the younger person who is thinking about you every night senses that hidden sadness inside you instinctively, even without you saying a single word. That is why their attachment feels deeper than logic can easily explain. Emotionally, they are not just attracted to your appearance or your personality traits. They are drawn toward your emotional energy and your strength. They are drawn toward the parts of you that survived great pain without turning into someone cruel. They are drawn toward the emotional intelligence you have gained through all those years of challenges. If you feel this strange, deep emotional connection with someone younger, it is because they are drawn toward the calmness you carry even after disappointment and hardship. They are drawn toward the warmth you still offer, despite everything life has done to your heart over time. That kind of energy is unforgettable, especially in a generation that is emotionally exhausted by superficiality and fake, forced connections. Perhaps this younger person does not yet fully understand that what they are feeling is not a sign of weakness. It is an awakening of their own soul. You triggered an emotional depth inside them that is stronger than they expected. You forced them to confront feelings they had successfully avoided for a long time. You made them realize that genuine emotional intimacy is far more powerful than any temporary excitement could ever be. Once someone experiences that realization, ordinary attraction simply stops satisfying them in the same way. That is why they keep returning to you mentally at night when the world is quiet. Your connection has become emotionally symbolic for them. You now represent something much deeper in their subconscious mind. You represent safety, meaning, emotional truth, vulnerability, healing, longing, stability, desire, and understanding, all of these things at once. Symbols are psychologically powerful because the human mind attaches deep emotional meaning to them that goes far beyond any rational explanation. Sometimes they probably stare at your photos for much longer than they should without even realizing what they are doing. Sometimes they type messages to you and delete them repeatedly, never finding the courage to hit send. Sometimes they wonder if saying something out loud would change everything between you, and sometimes they simply lay awake in the dark, silently missing someone they are not even sure belongs to them yet. That kind of emotional ache is difficult to escape once it starts. But there is something you must never do after hearing this message. Do not lower your worth by chasing emotional certainty from someone who is clearly emotionally confused right now. Even if they are thinking about you every night and their feelings are genuine, emotional truth still requires them to have emotional courage. Courage cannot be forced upon anyone. People must reach a place where they are ready to face their own hearts honestly when the time is right. Your role is not to rescue emotionally unavailable people from their internal struggles. Your role is to remain aligned with your own worth and value. Deep down, you already know something important about how connections should work. Real love should not require you to abandon yourself or ignore your own needs in any way. The right connection will eventually move toward honesty, not toward endless confusion and doubt. It will move toward emotional clarity, not toward constant painful guessing. It will move toward true vulnerability, not toward a permanent state of hiding from one's own feelings. Still, some connections take a long time to mature, especially when one's soul is still in the process of emotionally growing and learning. Maybe tonight, while you are listening to these words, that younger person is staring into the darkness somewhere, replaying memories of you again. They are wondering whether you sense their feelings as clearly as they feel them. They are wondering whether your silence is a sign of disinterest or just emotional caution on your part. They are wondering whether fate placed you in their life for a reason that is much larger than a simple, temporary attraction. Certain people enter our lives not just to entertain us, but to transform us emotionally in lasting, permanent ways. You may never fully realize how deeply you changed them just by being who you are. You might not know how much emotional healing your presence accidentally created for them, or how many nights your memory became both a source of comfort and a source of pain for them at the same time. You may not know how often your existence pulled them back from the emotional emptiness they felt. Perhaps that is the real reason they think about you every single night without fail. It is not because you are perfect, and it is not because you manipulated them. It is not because they are weak. It is because something inside them finally felt understood and safe when they met you. Human beings never easily forget the people who make them feel truly seen and valued. So, if this message found you tonight at exactly the right moment, do not ignore the strange sense of recognition you feel in your chest. Some connections arrive quietly, without labels, without perfect timing, and without any easy explanations. Yet, they still leave permanent emotional fingerprints on the soul that last for a lifetime. Protect your heart always. Trust your intuition fully. Never underestimate the emotional impact your presence carries in the world around you. Somewhere tonight, while the rest of the world sleeps, someone younger is still thinking about you,